There's no joke this year. I didn't watch Geats. Welcome to the Geats discussion, every pony.
Woo!
Yay.
Yippee!
There's no joke. I'm disappointed.
Let's see. I think one year was soup. The next year was like, why is there a fly in the soup? I don't know, man. I've been doing this since X8. I don't remember what I do.
It's okay, Marco Satsu.
Wow, you're old.
Hi, it's me, Aki. Slide a comment on Twitter. I go by they, them, and I'm here to talk about Geats. Take it, Bowie.
Hi, I'm Bowie, Kaizenized Dice. I am Aki's son. I'm really just here to gas up K1 Kekara. Take it, Will.
Justifies _ on Twitter. Any pronouns? I write threads. Next person.
Hi, this is Lady Cassandrina and...
Yolando.
And yep, we're big time Kamen Rider fans and we're looking forward to this discussion.
I'm here to just simp over Michinaga for 2 hours.
We love both. Marcos.
What the heck? What? Did you guys organize this?
It's never been this smooth. I'm also flabbergasted.
Marco Satsu. Yosh?
Hello, it's me, Yosh. Comment Slater on Twitter. I do art. I go by him. Thomas, take it.
Oh, thank you. Hello, everyone. I'm Thomas Jujubee. I am Thomas Jujubee on other social media platforms, and I make YouTube videos sometimes. Depends.
Take it, Majin.
Thomas himself is in like a submarine right now for research.
No, I refuse to enter submarines for religious purposes.
This is gonna sound really random. You guys ever played Danganronpa?
Yeah!
No, I'm leaving. No.
You guys remember when Geats was first announced and
it was good?
I remember when they were like, oh yes, it's going to be using games like Fortnite as inspiration.
Y'all, I was so terrified by that comment.
Why?
I don't actually play myself, and it's like, I just gave you like this bad mojo, and I was like, okay, but go into it with an open mind and see how it goes. I think you guys will probably agree where it's like the first couple episodes are very hype.
So
Yes.
My big fear was that when they said like, oh yeah, it's gonna be like vaguely inspired by Fortnite, like, oh no, Geet's gonna be dancing, hitting the greedy.
And to be fair, there's a couple random ass dances in Geats. We've all seen them.
I wish he did do the gritty.
I think Geats would have been peak if Goku would also fight Deku from My Hero Academia.
Okay.
Spider-Man.
And hey, they're adding Persona 5 soon to Fortnite too, because think of what we could have had, guys.
So I watched 14 episodes and it was the best story I've ever seen in a long
So
time.
true. Like Geats' first 14 episodes, you can search it 20, was so good that the falling off Geats had should be studied.
Are you a hater?
I am a hater. Geats fell off like fucking crazy. Like, oh my god.
I myself agree that Geats was at its best very early on, and around episode 14 exactly, when at that point in time we got to okay, this is we've added 3 seasons of Desire Grand Prix, and it kind of just kept going, and towards the end it became a pace, the very early part or early half of Geats takes things slowly in a good way, but then because of that, towards the end, we're like, shit, guys, we have 10 episodes left to close all the loose ends.
And no time for anything.
That's kind of exactly my problem. It's really funny comparing my opinions on Geats now and in the previous discussion, because I was so happy and excited. A bit mean on the timeline. I don't think Geats is bad in any way. I think it's a very good show, and even though it has errors, I do think it mostly is just not my cup of tea. I found myself getting mentally clocked out of Geats really around episode 30, because at one point I felt so satisfied with everything. I'm like, why is it still going? And then when it kept going, I didn't like what they were introducing, so I'm like, are we still going? And then they added another game and they kept going, and I'm like, is this show not over yet? And it ended earlier. It's shocking to me. It's only been 49 episodes. It feels like I've watched 70.
That's the thing. I know a lot of us haven't seen the ending, but I just feel like towards the end, they just keep introducing one thing after the other. It's we got to do this, we got to do that, we got to do that. And any of these could have been endgame on their own, and it feels overcrowded, and there's just too much to wrap up in too little time. I think they did what they could with it. I'm okay with how it went, but I know it could have been much cleaner.
it's like I said, like Geats has a very clear pacing issue. Like 5 to 10 more episodes would have led them time to cook everything that they wanted to cook. But we literally there's like the last 2 episodes chosen the entire right player from Exit arc.
I was guys, I was so bad while we were watching because I was like, I would just turn to Anthem with this stupid grin on my face. I'm like, Anthem, I love Xaid. I love watching Geats when it's Xaid.
I think a lot of us can agree that Kamen Rider does have this issue where they go on for too long and then their last stretch is just like, okay, what are we doing? We should end the show already. And so at this point, it's more like, how least bad can we make the last stretch of episodes? And yes, I'm actually joking, guys. I did watch Geats. I promise, I watched Geats.
I thought you were being serious. I'm not gonna lie.
No, I actually watched Geats. So then when they introduced a new writer to be the final boss, I was like, why? We don't need this. It's just padding at this point.
Hey Marcos, can you say his name?
Your mom.
Damn.
Okay.
You were saying, Aki?
I was gonna say, yeah, I think that final boss being a main writer thing is just one of the many negatives that modern writer brings to the table, which in itself I find to be really lame. It's like, oh no, final episode, final forms, etc., like final episode writers. Those are just such lame concepts to me because they just don't really have any substance within themselves.
I will respectfully disagree. I don't think the concept on its own is bad. Like most things in Writer, I think the execution is what usually kills it. I fuck a lot with final forms. The thing is, I feel like Modern Writer and like as a whole in like the recent entries, it's in this weird limbo where it feels like it should have either ended way earlier or way later because they introduced so many concepts that would be banger in the last like couple stretches if the show was 70 episodes, but it's not, and thank God it is, and I do not have the edge to watch 70 episode seasons. But like Regard, is that his name? I'm not sure.
Yeah, the word. It's another word for like
It's
vision
another-
and seeing.
Yeah, in French, the word for see is regarde.
Oh,
Sick. I didn't know this. Thank you. I think it's a really cool concept. But the thing is, Sewell fucking sucked, and I cannot tell you for the life of me why they introduced it in the last episode. Why? It's such a banger suit. Gazer died fucking ages ago. Fucking repainted already.
Why do we have Jit transform into it and then they like they hype up like when Swell does it and it's like it's as if we're only seeing it for the first time and like the only difference is the helmet opens up and that's it. And I'm like, I don't feel the hype because I literally just saw Jit get his ass kicked, my dudes. Like, what am I supposed to be feeling right now?
I think part of the main issue is when the final form is supposed to be this godlike entity with like Geats 9, and then you can't really go much from there unless you're like Gurren Lagann. So
I understand that it's hard to make OP characters. Geats 9 literally God of Creation. And like, okay, how do you beat that unless you go full Gurren Lagann? It's like, oh yeah, well, I'm God of Creation, or oh yeah, well, now I'm God of Creation S. I couldn't care less about Jit. Instead of Jit being a character, it should have just been Srel the whole time.
I'll agree so hard. I love Jit. I think he's really charming. But why is bro here? Srel could have done it on his own.
We're told literally that like, oh, he's another facet of Srel. I'm like, okay.
Then just have Swell or just have Jit. Like, just pick one and stick with it.
Yeah, it's so fucking weird. Because, like, I think Jit works phenomenally as a final antagonist. His whole shtick with, like, oh, I guarantee bad endings. That's fucking banger. I was more invested in Jit than the fucking 20-something episodes of Soul. Who gives a shit about this guy? He wears a mask and he goes, I will fuck over Geats. And that's all he does. He just says it to the fucking camera. What do you want me to do? I believe you. Do something.
Storius and Solomon are better.
Oh,
Pistorius was there since episode 1, and he was a villain for like a decent portion of the show, where it's like Swell was only a thing during the Desire Royale, and then he disappeared for literally 10 episodes. Storius was active as a common writer, or no, not a common writer, but like as a villain before he became a writer. The writer thing was just, here's a different toy you could buy. Like they went to sell a toy, but they didn't invent a character just to sell a toy. So it works a little better.
I really think it's funny comparing the ending to the beginning because of course I agree with you guys. The beginning was just so good. I've been saying like, oh my gosh, Geats has been like this masterpiece that I haven't felt since like Build, and then it just goes down a little bit.
You've never said that.
I said that in the Geats episode. F you, Thomas.
Do you want to?
I think currently Geats is good. It could have been better. It could have been a lot less episodes, but it is good. And I think looking back at it now, knowing what we know now, like the opening arc of Geats, I guess I should say, there's just so much jammed into it that you feel like it could have lasted all these like 50 some episodes. It could have probably lasted just from like that little bit that we had, twist after twist, all these new characters coming in and having a new DGP every other arc or every arc. I think it's such a neat idea, and there's a lot of cool ideas Geats could have done, and then it didn't.
Feels like the story of Geats is so much more plot driven than character driven.
That's most of Takahashi shows, I think.
Like outside of specific exceptions, where like Mishinaga's story, you get to see almost all of his story, but K1 gets stuff happening suddenly, like he flips a switch so suddenly for the sake of the story rather than his character.
I don't fully agree, but I see the point. I think that comes from just the way Geats is. Geats has this like sort of format where like after some point it goes from like a cohesive story that like all characters move together to a stop and go type of format, like, oh, the game ends, oh, but we're going back again, no, it's a different thing, oh, but it ends, oh, we're going again. And that happens to all characters, but Ace, because he's the focus, he gets like this nice cohesive arc, and because he has like this fucking yaoi ass plotline with Michinaga.
Oh my god! Oh my god!
They go somewhere. They have like the cute little dates and they eat together and they become besties.
He's a fox. Imagine I'm doing like the hand pose right now. He's a fox.
Kayla doesn't have anything to do with Ace, and that's a big part of the problem why people are like, oh, Kayla isn't the secondary, because he doesn't have that much to do with Ace for most of the show until their final conflict. So Kayla just has to wait for his turn, and he just sits there awkwardly waiting for his sister to die. That's literally it. He's like a ticking time bomb. He's like, wow, I love my sister.
Talking about a better show, guys, Kayla was actually there to sell toys too.
But his ID core was campaign exclusive.
Yeah, I'm talking about garbage business practice of Toei and Bandai.
I think that's another discussion, Aki. Let's get you to bed, Grandpa.
I disagree that it does become very plot focused, the show. But at least like the very first arc and like half of the one with Punch Jack are completely character focused. Like there's not a lot that's happening. It's just, hey, here's 2 episodes of Kayla dicking around with the boost buckle, and we'll learn about him or something. And also, like, it's kind of a thing that just happens with Kamen Rider in general, or at least the recent seasons, where they start very small stakes. I'll just use Revice as an example because it was last year, where it starts small stakes, and it's like, here's Iki doing things, and then his family joins in and stuff. And then as the show progresses and they have to bring in world-ending plots and stuff, then you lose that character focus because they have to start dealing with plot stuff. So like it's not really something Geats is unique in that sense. It just kind of happens. It's just a modern writer thing, I feel. Like it just always happens.
I'm glad to have your insight on that because real talk, Antho and me, like we've seen like 2 episodes of 01 and Geats, and that's all the Reiwa we've seen, so I'm really glad to have that perspective because we don't actually know.
To give you like a brief summary, Revice starts with like, oh look, this guy, he's like a bit nosy and walks out of bathhouse is insecure. He faces his own demons in front of him, and by the later half of the show, he fights Space Satan that has given his blessing to Mexico.
To Mexico.
I will be stealing the catchphrase "Space Demon Satan that has given his blessing to Mexico."
Heisei also does it, but I feel like the way Heisei does it, especially with like my perfect example is Agito, where in Agito it's not more so a progression, but it's more so a revelation to the audience of what's actually happening. It's not a situation where, oh yeah, so we're in this really grounded setting where these guys are like competing against each other to actually make their wish come true, and like it going to, oh yeah, so there are these 2 gods, technically 3, and they be beefing and shit, and like there's actually another god, so like it's kind of like about making a wish come true, but there's also this god who can anyways grant it anyways. It just feels a bit off-putting comparing the tone of the start to the end when Heisei actually manages to keep it actually like the same throughout.
The greatest thing about Agito is like them fighting God is a personal thing. Soichi punching God means a lot more than Ace beef is shooting God, you know? The story is very like personal. When they fight God, it's because God tells them you don't deserve to exist. And he speaks directly to those three. Technically four if you want to count Kino. So like, but when Gates does it, Gates started as a really character-focused show. When it's like Agito. Agito makes a big deal of it having 3 writers. And so did like Gates. He's like, oh, look at these main 4. These main 4 interact with each other. And we see like Ace is kind of like a Sentai Red, like Kira Major, where he serves like as he kind of gets development by developing everybody else around him. He helps everybody else and he develops with it. And he has his focus episode, which is like the monster episode. And it's, in my opinion, the best Ace episode where he fucking learns from Michinaga instead. It's a good subversion of what he usually does. It's a really good like dynamic that works really well, and I was really invested in those 4. But then the show becomes allergic to KY and Neon, and I cannot tell you why. And then like when they come back together, it doesn't feel like it's their story. Like Keiwa has a beef with Kekera, Michinaga has beef with Perova. Neon, I don't know what the fuck Neon is doing for the last to be honest.
Neon has to borrow Baroba from Michi to have a final fight, and they didn't. Might I add, poor Nago didn't even get pants for her fantasy book.
True. The majority of her arc is with Kyun. She's with Kyun and KY and Ace. None of them are in the finale of her story. They do nothing. Ace appears to give her the fucking core by sitting in a rooftop like 70 feet away. Okay.
Gets too many important characters that you need to introduce. So now we have to focus on the sponsors. We have to focus on the new game master and Niram. And we have to focus on like, hey, now there's a cult, I guess.
Oh, and Daichi. And Daichi's off doing stuff.
Daichi, yeah. Exactly.
I love Daichi, though. I love him.
Daichi was great. I like that's another. Well, again, I find Daichi's character progression works great, way better than either Keiwa's or Neon's.
In our opinion.
I think Daichi has the same problem, but to a lesser extent, where he just kind of needs like 1 or 2 more episodes for some breathing room between those, like the revelation his character has. But I do love where his character ends, where he's just kind of growing Pikmin Gemotos. That's fun.
The problem is not too many writers, it's too many writers that do the same thing. Because like I feel like a lot of writers have a purpose, but especially in like Exit and up, there's a lot of writers that like their job could be filled by somebody else, and they just like struggle they don't finish the story of somebody, and so it just like stays like a question for like the entire show. And by the time it gets to conclusion, he did nothing for like 20 episodes. So you're like, okay, everything needs to have a focal point that they kind of clash or touch on. Keiwa having his own thing, Neon having her own thing, Buffa and Ace having gay sex, and then like and then Sewell having only beef with Ace because nobody else can fuck with him, and then having Punk Jack, who has not gotten a new purpose other than just like a scout. Ace is an omnipotent god; he can do that on his own.
like really, really fast. Like Conrider Letter, I was kind of hoping she would stay around for a long time, and then she just died in the same episode.
Oh, same. I'm like, cool, another girl writer. Well, never mind. Well, yeah, it still feels kind of it like, you know, just thinking that like again, like having a swappable cast, as several of you have mentioned already, would have been awesome.
It just kind of becomes lame because it's like when you don't get to have these normal grounded character moments, whatever happens throughout the show feels a lot less, for me at least, you know, a lot less connected. Because it's like when it comes to shows, especially Kamen Rider, you know, you have 50 episodes, you can definitely create some nice grounded character moments where these characters can interact in a civil manner where they can just talk and have a good time, right? And like we actually get to see them form a bond that's in an actual grounded manner. But like this never really properly happens in Geats. And almost all the characters really have that type of talk for the most part, which really just like kind of brings down that relationship, the bond aspect of the show, you know.
The reason why I love Faiz because it's my favorite season ever, is because the characters can be fucking facing basically evil god monster creature that's evolved past humanity. But then they'll go have dinner together. They'll go to a fucking they'll go to an amusement park and be like, so what do we do next? I don't know, but I want to go to the carousel. Like, okay. Like they have those moments where you remember that, oh yeah, they're human. They're not like archetypes, they're human.
Yeah, even the Orphanaut kids, I love each one of them madly, and like I don't know, and like just seeing them like do have their day-to-day lives, like it makes you more connected, and I feel that I just missed so much of that in Geats. Like I feel there could have been more of that, because I'm incredibly biased. I love that in Rider. I love the downtime. I'm still not done O's, but I'm rewatching it, and I just love the downtime in O's.
But after like the show goes on, only Ace and Michi share those moments. Like Keiwa never gets a moment where people tell him, "It's okay, Keiwa, we're here for you." Like when he's crying his eyes out.
It's just Neon and Ace on a bridge going like, "Yeah, sucks that Sarah died." Anyway.
That's because he had the goat Kekara supporting him.
Ace spends the entire fucking show sitting on a fence in the last part and going, "Damn, I hope Tycoon is okay. I'm not gonna do anything about that."
Yeah, no, it's the funniest thing because it was just like, Tycoon will figure it out on his own. I believe in him. It's like, fucker, help him.
The team up moments in Geats are so damn cool. Look, those team up fights, like that final fight and the laser boost Geats with Jamashin Buffa versus Niram, that was cool as hell. But there's a lack of like that character aspect, like you said, that links them all very tightly together. It's really just like we're individuals fighting for our selfish wishes, and that's cool. That's part of the Geats message. I just wish we had more moments. Like, well, again, like Neon and Michinaga talk like what once through the entire show, and like and towards the end, they're like, "Yeah, we're besties." Am I right? Yeah.
With Agito, like they have moments where like they fucking Soichi punches God, and the next moment they have is Soichi's in the fucking like farm, fucking picking up turnips, and like Hikawa's like, "Hey Soichi, how are you doing? How are you?" And they have like the stupid ass talks. They have moments where they have like the most traumatizing thing ever happen to them, and they try to cope with it. And they talk to each other and they're like, "How are you? I'm doing fine." Even if they're lying, it helps them progress. Rio goes through it, and so it's just like, "Hey, are you okay?" "Yeah, I'll manage." And that's like that small moment is more than Geats ever does for Keiwa. Because nobody ever talks to him other than Kekera. And Kekera is the bad guy. Kekera is like, Keiwa, you should kill them all, not yourself. Kill them all. Keiwa, that's what a true comrade does.
That's my Kamen Rider. That's my goat, y'all. Not yourself.
I'm starting to think Geats is a lot like the cereal of Captain Crunch I'm eating. Sure, it can be a little bland at times, but you get marshmallows, you get half-expired milk, and it's all good.
Marcos, I'm gonna fight you because Captain Crunch is delicious and Geats is awesome. So
I meant to say Lucky Charms. Captain Crunch is completely different.
Lucky Charms is awful though.
What?
Serial discussion.
Marcos, we need to unite.
Ace with us. Ace with us. Ace with us.
I can't even participate in the cereal discussion because I'm European. We don't have half of these cereals here.
Oh no!
This is going in the video, right, Marcos?
But like, I do want to emphasize, I do think Geats is good. I do think it's a really good show, and especially for someone that fucks a lot more with the aesthetics and Ace's archetype. Because I'm not like the biggest fan of like god characters, but like people that fuck with that, I am sure they will love Geats. I personally place like a 7 or 8 out of 10. I think it's really good, and I think it's a great show like that somebody could genuinely pick up and be like, "Wow, I love that. The action was great. I love the characters. I love the suit."
I think what Kekara does is be a funny robo like fucking Frogman, while also providing the show with a meta narrative about how the general concept on the legacy of the franchise has been and people's expectations from a certain franchise is, and by by playing with Kava, and like showing us his character arc, they managed to make a statement about how the franchise has grown. That's about showing how sacrifice makes others stronger.
And theming of sacrificing to make stronger, I vote Aki.
Wait, do I get sacrificed?
Yes,
Or like,
to make me stronger.
who's gonna get?
This is
no
so
one's.
Ryuki coded.
God.
Wait, no, Aki, if you're my Kekra, this should make sense. It's part of my character arc.
Can we sacrifice Bowie?
What the fuck?
I vote
It's too
Bowie.
late.
No!
I will Bowie.
I
Okay,
vote
never mind.
myself.
So we are doing Danganronpa, basically. That was your plan all along, wasn't it, Marco?
Oh, speaking of Danganronpa, I think my favorite character is Kekura.
So upset. I will never not be upset over the fact that they gave Kosei Gyago the suit and he used it like once and then never again.
If you guys agree, tweet Nice Vice.
I am so upset. Like I love the suit and I'm totally unbiased.
So my favorite character is Kekura.
Ribbit.
What's the fuck ass bear's name from Danganronpa?
Monokuma.
Monokuma.
The pawn.
His name is Danganronpa Bear.
I think it's really cool how all of them, not all of them, but like a large majority of the cast is like morally gray. Like they're not clearly good or evil. Like straight up in the beginning, because Ace is like, he's saving people, but he's doing it just so he can become a superstar. And he's also mean. So it's like, okay, is he a good guy? And like, there's this one scene, or there's a couple scenes, but the one I'll bring up just briefly now is when Buffa gets the Jamashin, the first episode after he gets Jamashin. And there's that fight with Jean and Chirami becoming Glare 2 again. And it's super interesting because on like a basic level, it is Jean and Glare 2 as like good guys versus Buffa Muso, bad guy, because he's, doing bad guy things, kind of. But then like within the context of the episode, like Chirami's been sending out people to get retired by Buffa. He's just not like they have a scene where Sumeri's like, "What are you doing?" And it's like, "I'm just trying to make entertainment." So it's like, okay, he's kind of a bad guy. So Buffa's kind of a good guy in this instance. But then there's also Jean in the situation who is just definitively a good guy because he teamed up with Ace and he had that character arc where he learns about lives. So it's like this three-way battle. I mean, not, like Glare 2 and Zine are on the same side, but it's like, who do you even root for in that instance? Because Buffa is kind of justified, but he's retiring people and he's kind of doing it in a weird way, but he's also trying to get rid of the Desire Grain Priest. So it's like, you're kind of on his side, but Chirami is trying to stop a dude who's like going after people, but he's also sending people out there. And Ajin is just kind of a good guy, but he's like thrown in against this situation, fighting against technically another good guy. And there's a lot of fights and like moments in the show and like that I really find that fascinating. That like there's a lot of the characters are like, it's not clear cut. This guy's a good guy, this is a bad guy, and like it lets some of the character moments later on feel like really natural. Like Buffa, like as I said, like he kind of becomes villainous, but then as we all know, he becomes a hero by the end. But it doesn't feel like a contrived redemption thing. Like, oh, it's okay, Buffa. I mean, they do say like we forgive you and stuff, but it's like we also forgive him because we've been following the story and we understand the story. So I think that's like really fascinating with all the characters, but also especially Buffa. I guess Buffa does the best.
I would like to actually talk about a character that does fit like the not clear good guy or bad guy that we haven't really mentioned yet. This is for my moody. Niram is a very interesting character because he's like
I love her.
in this really like weird spot where like Niram is supposed to be an antagonist for most of the show and it's very compelling, but like when they waste Niram by killing Bro, it's like they try to really push like this narrative that's been kind of implied but never explored, which is really sad. Which is Niram has grown to really like reality and to really like the state of things and just wants to like oversee it. But like then like we think about it, like Bro has spent the entire show eating food, which like it has some really interesting insight implications, and I really like it. But we never go past it. My voice died. We never go past it, and it's so weird. because Niram is such a fascinating character that has like so overpowered, and you would really think after being such a menacing, powerful figure for so long, he would amount to something eventually. Yeah, like whether it's redemption or not, or whether he's completely grateful the entire show, you would think he would go somewhat. But then he gets shot and dies, which is one of the funniest deaths in the franchise. But like, I I'm pretty sure it's just because they couldn't get Kitamura on there for like longer, like the actor. But like, I'm so puzzled. It feels like something was brewing, and it just never stopped brewing. It just disappeared. It's like you lost the fucking cauldron. What? Where did it go? Why?
See, this is all gonna be resolved in the final stage where Kitamura comes back.
I'm so glad you brought up Neuron because he's like his other fight with Buffa is like the other example I have where like he's introduced as a good guy because he stops Girori, who was our like main antagonist for the first part of the show. But then his debut as Gazer is fighting against Buffa, and it's like Kamen Rider versus Yamato, so it's like Neuron's technically the good guy, but Buffa's our main character friend, and we don't know anything about. He's just been like this mysterious, ominous character. So it's like, who is the good guy here? Is it trying to stop Yamato Buffa from doing whatever, or is the good guy Yamato Buffa because we understand where he comes from? So yes, Niram is cool.
Every future character, I feel for me, like reflects those specific little themes that they have behind their, like again, like they said, like they don't experience emotion properly, so they all have that one thing. And Niram's like again, like you said, like the simple joy of reality, and that's really cool. My main problem is that like the one person from your future we see the most is Zin, and I feel like he's the one that for me like got the least out of it, because like his main thing is just like, man, Geese, I sure like you a lot. Like, wait, what do you mean you have a tragic backstory? That makes me sad. Sad is awful.
I love Zin. I think he's a very compelling character with the theme of like somebody finding perverse joy and somebody suffering. It's like a common thing we have, and it's similar to Beroba. It's really cool, like foil. But the thing is, he genuinely thinks he's the good guy from the start. And he's like, "Oh, I'm supporting my fave because it's fun, it's silly." But then he gets to like realize that guy is a person, and that realization where he realizes it's not like a toy he's like hyping up, it's not like some sort of like horse racing bet he's placing, and it's a genuine person like him when he gets to feel emotion. It's a really beautiful narrative, and I think those are some of my favorite episodes. Probably the last episode I can say Geats was perfect. Like that's the last episode I can say like, oh, I loved everything about it.
The part where Zine is here a lot for me was more like at the time where I really wanted more from Kewa and Neon. And for me, that ended up going into like, oh man, it's Zine again. But what about my other kids?
I get it.
Man, you know what? I probably would like Geats as a series even more if I got to watch it all in one go versus having to wait every week.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like watching a show as it is like painful because a big part of like discussion, like a lot of discourse gets solved out once the show ends and more people watch it because people don't have the same issues. A big part of like with Saber when it was airing, people hated Ren. People thought Ren was annoying because like he spent the start of the show being a little kid, being annoying about it, and then he disappears for like 2 months, 3 months. He doesn't do anything, and people are like, "Is that his character, just being a bitch?" And they got really upset at him because he's just a bitch.
Yeah.
But like when you like watch the show in a binge, in like 3 days he's back and he has like the best arc in the show. Yeah, Ren is the green one. Like he doesn't do shit for like the middle arc because he's like going through it. He has nothing to do with Toma. But then like when he gets to it, he's great. He's normal. It happens a lot in shows. It's a very common thing.
Zin and Kyun kind of fuck off. Like right when I started to care about Zin in the show is where he leaves and doesn't show up for the rest, right? And I do feel really bad because I wish I could have gotten to see more of Zin when I started caring for him.
I think that Zin should have fucked off way earlier. His whole thing is like, I'm gonna start living for myself, and then he doesn't fuck off. He's just there.
He leaves for like 2 episodes and then he just comes back out of nowhere. And it's like, what did you do? He went to the bar for I don't. He just left. He didn't leave long enough But he didn't leave like. But the fact that he left at all was like, what?
It's hard. It's like we really want to like him, but like it's again that mixed message of I'm moving on with my life. Hello, I'm back.
I feel like Zin is a character that like benefits tremendously from not being in the show forever. I feel like he's a very compelling character that's there. He sells a purpose. He sells the idea that like he's the original person that like tells you like, hey, these motherfuckers are parasocial. These motherfuckers have no idea what the fuck is going on with humans. This guy is like a monster, but he's alien in comparison to Geats. And then he gets faced with the reality of things. He gets to be human. And once he's humanized, he's like, I need to get a grip. Thank you, Ace. And like Ace, like, yeah, we're like they become buddies by the end. Like they're like Ace likes him by the end, and that's a really fun arc. And I think he like could have left there and come back in the finale and be like, yeah, I'm still a fan, and like maybe like an occasional nod to him. That would have been sick. That's what I personally wanted. Well, I think Kekira and Beroba are depraved parasocial losers that will never get a grip, and that's the fucking appeal of it. The entire character of Kekira and Beroba, actually Kekira has a bit more to it, but Beroba's entire character is fuck around, find out. Zin was like, I fucked around, I found out, I'm gone, I'm a decent person, I left. Well, like fucking Beroba is like, I'm a fucking twat, I'm gonna fuck around. And when she finds out, she's like completely shocked. How could this happen to her? She found out, she got fucking trolled by Buffer. How could this happen? And I think it's very compelling narrative. It's really fun.
I want to know what happened to Ben and John.
I was about to talk about Ben and John.
Yeah. I'm so sad.
They still should have made like concept art. The fact they didn't get suits is a different thing, but the fact they still didn't at least design like an image of a helmet and release it officially is the bigger issue.
I remember when all of this was happening, and I was like, "Oh, okay, but maybe they're not gonna introduce any new writers, right? Because those guys didn't get a suit. They're not gonna release any other new suits, right?" And after that, the wave of other writers came, and I was like, "What the f-?
Meow.
Ribbit.
No, I need to say this. What do you guys think about Ace becoming God? Was it lame or not? I want people to.
My problem is
I thought it was all right.
I thought it was all right and fits Ace's character arc to some degree. My problem is literally, like I said earlier, is that I find it's just hard to power scale characters that are like literally again like yeah, I have the power of creation. Whatever you can do, I can fuck back against.
I wanna go back to stuff too that Will said on this same topic, where it's like, K1 not having enough space sometimes for his stuff, because literally in the same episode where he's the main focus should be him dealing with Kekira, we have Ace going like, oh yeah, I'm becoming a god, but I'm getting over it. He beats the crap out of Jit, and like, it jumps to like this whole other thing, So, and I'll be real, I thought Ace becoming like, a stone statue like his mother, that could have absolutely have been endgame. Like the others somehow finding a way to reach him and save him from that. Maybe he ends up getting out himself while they're trying to rescue him, but I thought that would have been really epic.
Fuck, you're right. That's actually brilliant. That would have been great for all the characters.
I have the same feeling. Like I'm not against the idea. I just don't like how they handled it.
If you count Kuroto Dan,
No,
I
no.
mean,
No, that's.
I love Dan. I love Dan
If-
Peace.
Could you consider Toma a god?
that's a good point.
Toma,
Oh yeah, Toma, I guess.
intermission. Gia Gili sent me a DM to inform this discussion that
Hi, Gia.
that Buffer is hot. That's the DM.
He is
Yes!
Shout out Buffer's
Yeah.
balls.
Whoa!
King Star. King Star.
So, with Ace being God, I don't think they could have done his story in any other way. The problem is not that he became God, even though I do find it kind of lame. The problem is that Ace is so incomparable to everybody else. Because, like, I'm gonna dick right Agito again. Because fucking Soichi.
No, you should go for Kabuto.
Because like fucking Tendo is like almost near the level of God. He can fucking like he fucking teleports back in time to get the final form. That's crazy. But like the thing is, Kagami feels like he's equal. When they fight the fucking native, Kagami is important. Even if he's like significantly weaker, you feel like Kagami, like Tendo would not win without Kagami. And like they wouldn't win without fucking Tsurugi's sacrifice. Everything about Kabuto feels like Yeah, Tendo is like fuck off, like stronger than them, but they all matter. Tendo would not be as strong, and like it feels, and they do that indirectly. Like Tendo talks with Kagami, and that's how he gets inspired to fight. Ace literally tells the camera, "I cannot do this if my friends don't believe in me." That's nowhere near as compelling as Kagami being like, "You don't understand the bond between me and Tendo. You will never understand our bond. Our friendship is what led us to the path of heaven." That like doesn't fucking compare.
Where like, oh, it would have been so much cooler to have the other characters free Geats from the statue.
It's awful because I'm a writer as well, so sometimes in the media that I'm consuming, and this is very much a me problem, where it's like, oh, sometimes you write out an ending that you're like, this is obviously the direction you're going, and they're like, oh, you guys didn't do that. Oh, whoops. All right.
Me with the 0-1.
They could have handled it a little differently, and I didn't mean that, like, you could make the idea of him becoming god cooler, just like incorporate the others a little more so it doesn't outweigh the others. That's kind of what I meant. Like,
Ace, it's like the early mystery is just like, yo, the fuck is his mom? But also, Ace, are you 2,000 years old? To, oh shit, Ace's mom is a goddess. To, oh shit, Ace is like 25 people reincarnated over the years. So that's part of like what also makes it art. Like, he has pretty decent character development, but he is already at a point where, like, again, I'm Ace. I've lived for over 2,000 years, and I've had 2,000 years worth of character development. Haha, silly normal
Actually,
people.
wait, I think Aki cooked. I changed my opinion live.
Oh no.
I'm fucking saying, bro. That me up. Oh my god.
This is why I fucking like screamed fuck when fucking Cass like dropped her suggestion, because I realized, wow, that's way more compelling than killing him for no reason. I know it's because look, Tsumuri, shot him. Look, he died. Like I guess from the intro, because people got. Aki, before I give you the talking stick, I want to mention it right now before I forget it. You know damn well the reason why they fucking did that is because people got pressed that Iki didn't wear a suit in Revise. They got pressed.
Actually, he wears a suit in the last episode, so
Bro, it's so fucking stupid. I hate Rider fans. I hate Takahashi. I hate whatever the fuck went on there. Cause why is it the obsession that the fucking opening visuals have to line in with the show itself? Who cares? Who cares? I don't get that at all.
yeah, I personally really like that. I really like it because it's so satisfying to like see that, like, oh, this happens in the opening. I wonder what this means, and then you have the satisfying moment of seeing it in the show.
Speaking of bad openings, I hate Trust Last, but it's time to end the discussion. Aki!
Final thoughts. I think Kicker was cool as fuck. The rest is kind of garbage. Fuck Takashi. Boy, take it.
I thought Geats was interesting. I enjoyed it more in its own little bubble, like every episode in its own bubble, aside from a whole piece, but that's just my thing. Will, hit it.
Geats to me is kind of like how I feel about Build. It's a really solid show with really interesting dynamics. I do think it's a little bit worse than Build. I had a lot of reservations about Takahashi, but you know what? He kind of cooked for the first 30 episodes, and the rest are kind of good, but I have my gripes with them. I'm sure somebody else would think Geats is a 10 out of 10, and I'm happy for them. Cass, what are your thoughts?
I really liked Geats overall. I have my little gripes here and there about it, but I still think it's a really solid show. I really liked the fights and the buckles, and I love our cast, and I'm gonna miss them. But I am looking forward to Gotchard, and we'll see what happens with the next season. Antho, your turn.
I think Mishinaga's the GOAT.
actually, he's a buffalo.
Zombie is like one of my easily favorite writer forms at this point. Geese was good. There's definitely things I could have made it better, but overall, like I liked it a lot. A fun cast of characters, and I had a lovely chat with you all. Marcos, what up?
Geats was good.
Marcos, what would you give it out of 10?
Yosh, go.
Geats was very interesting. I fell out of it very hard, and I had trouble watching it later on. But that should, who am I to judge? It's a good show, probably. I'm just being silly, anyways. Thomas.
I love Kamen Rider Geats so much. I love how it starts with the Battle Royale theme and they just have Kamen Riders come and go, and all they have to do is just switch out a helmet or repaint it. No one has a specific form. They can just throw on a random buckle and it counts as a base form. Kawa and Groovy have the same base form. And that's really weird, but that's really cool. And then I'm a little disappointed how, as the show goes on, they kind of drop that Battle Royale aspect. And it's just like, hey, everyone, here's a buckle. You just keep it the whole time. The orange buckles just go away. But I think they set up a really great core cast of characters in the beginning so that when the superficial aspects of the Battle Royale drop off, I still thoroughly enjoyed it because I just enjoyed seeing these characters do things. And in addition to like the extra characters they added, like the supporters are really fantastic and they completely change the show, but they're only introduced like 20 episodes in. And I think that's really fascinating. And I do have issues, especially with like the finale. I wish Swell was just not a final boss Kamen Rider because I think that's boring. However, I still really love the show and it's going to be one of my favorite Rider seasons. And I was going to say something as like a joke or something, but I completely forgot what it was.
Every year, I always say that I hope the show is good, but this year I'm switching it up. I hope Godshard is bad, actually. I hope Godshard is the worst season of Kamen Rider ever made. I hope Godshard makes me want to stop watching Kamen Rider forever.
Please.
Oh, true, actually.